Imagine this, you are standing in the middle of what was once the bustling heart of Tokyo, but now all you can see is a landscape of ash, rubble, and twisted metal stretching as far as the eye can reach. The air is thick with the smell of smoke and despair, and everywhere you look, people with hollow eyes and sunken cheeks are searching desperately for their next meal in a city where food has become more valuable than gold. It is September 1945, just weeks after 2 atomic bombs have forced Japan to surrender, and the country's economy has been shattered so completely that millions are literally starving in the streets. In this apocalyptic wasteland, where even dreaming seems like a luxury no one can afford, the idea of building a business, let alone a global empire worth over $100 billion, would seem absolutely insane. And yet, in the basement of a bombed-out department store, surrounded by the ruins of a defeated nation, a 37-year-old engineer named Masaru Ibuka was about to make a decision that would not only change his life, but transform the entire world of consumer electronics forever. Just like the humble farm boy who created Lamborghini after being insulted by Enzo Ferrari, or the blacksmith's son who built Ferrari itself from nothing, Ibuka possessed something that couldn't be destroyed by bombs or broken by poverty, a relentless vision and an unshakable belief that innovation could rise from the ashes of destruction. With only 7 employees, a cramped basement that barely had electricity, and a meager capital of just $1,600, he founded a company called Tokyo Sushin Kogyo in a country where most people were focused on finding enough rice to survive the winter. Their first product turned out to be such a catastrophic failure that it became the laughingstock of post-war Tokyo, an electric rice cooker that either left the rice completely raw or burned it into an inedible black mess. A humiliating disaster in a nation where every single grain of rice was precious. Little did anyone know, this expensive failure was just the beginning of a journey that would lead to the creation of the Walkman, the PlayStation, and countless other innovations that would define modern life as we know it. Masaru Ibuka was born on April 11, 1908, in the small coastal city of Nikko, Japan, where his father worked as a recording engineer for a local film company. From the earliest age, young Ibuka was absolutely fascinated by anything mechanical or electrical, spending countless hours taking apart radios and phonographs to understand how they worked. After graduating from Waseda University in 1933 with a degree in engineering, Ibuka landed his first job at Photochemical Laboratory, where he quickly established himself as one of the brightest engineers in the industry. But his dreams were dramatically interrupted when Japan invaded China in 1937, eventually escalating into the Second World War. By 1940, Ibuka's exceptional skills had caught the attention of the Japanese military, and he was recruited to work on advanced radar systems and heat-seeking missile technology. When the atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August of 1945, forcing Japan's unconditional surrender, the entire nation was left in ruins. For Ibuka, who was now 37 years old with a wife and young children depending on him, the future looked impossibly bleak. But instead of giving in to despair, he made a fateful decision that would alter the course of history. In the smoking ruins of Tokyo, Ibuka sought out a small group of engineers who had worked alongside him during the war. Together, they established Tokyo Sushin Kogyo in a makeshift workshop located in the basement of a department store that had been gutted by firebombs. With only 190,000 yen in startup capital, roughly $1,600, and virtually no equipment, they decided to build an automatic electric rice cooker. In a country where food was strictly rationed and every grain of rice was precious, they believed this would be revolutionary. But when they unveiled the product, it turned out to be an unmitigated disaster. The device had no temperature control, which meant it either left the rice completely raw or burned it into a blackened mess. In a nation struggling with severe food shortages, ruining rice was almost offensive, and the failure left Ibuka utterly humiliated. But he refused to give up. Everything was about to change when he was joined by Akio Morita, a young man born in January 1921 into one of the wealthiest families in Japan, a prestigious clan of sake brewers whose business had been passed down through 14 generations. As the eldest son, Morita was expected to inherit this ancient legacy, but from a young age, he had developed a passionate interest in electronics and Western music. During the war, he had been assigned to work on military technology, where he first met Masaru Ibuka. The two men connected immediately over their shared obsession with engineering and innovation. When the war ended, Ibuka invited Morita to join his struggling venture. In 1946, at just 25 years old, Morita made the bold choice to abandon his family's legacy, invest his personal savings, and become a co-founder of Tokyo Sushin Kogyo, betting his entire future on a vision that most people thought was insane. Together, Ibuka and Morita formed what would become one of the most legendary partnerships in business history. Ibuka was the technical genius who could imagine products that didn't yet exist, while Morita was the charismatic businessman who could sell those products to the world. After the rice cooker disaster, the real breakthrough came in 1949 when Ibuka traveled to the United States and discovered the magnetic tape recorder. He immediately recognized its enormous potential for education and communication in a country desperate to rebuild. The problem was nobody in Japan knew how to manufacture magnetic tape. Ibuka and his team spent months of sleepless nights experimenting, using household frying pans to mix chemicals, and hand-painting the magnetic coating onto strips of paper. After countless failures, they finally succeeded, and in 1950, they released the G-type recorder. Unfortunately, the machine was a monster, weighing nearly 100 pounds with a price tag of 160,000 yen, far more than most families earned in a year. Sales were abysmal, but instead of quitting, they pivoted their strategy and began marketing to schools, courtrooms, and government offices. Orders slowly began coming in, and the company finally started generating real revenue. By the mid-1950s, they knew they needed something revolutionary to compete globally. That opportunity arrived in 1952 when Morita learned about the transistor during another trip to America. While American companies saw transistors only for hearing aids and military applications, Ibuka immediately understood their potential for creating portable consumer electronics. In 1954, they made a massive gamble, paying Western Electric $25,000 for transistor licensing rights, virtually all their available capital. If they failed, the company would go bankrupt. After months of exhausting work, they released the TR-55 in August 1955, Japan's first transistor radio. Sales were modest, but they continued refining the design. Then in 1957 came the TR-63, marketed as the world's first pocket-sized radio. The truth was the radio was slightly too large for standard pockets, so Morita brilliantly provided salesmen with custom-made shirts featuring extra-large pockets. The marketing worked perfectly, and the TR-63 sold over 100,000 units in the United States alone. However, one major obstacle remained: the company's name. Tokyo Sushin Kogyo was impossible for international customers to pronounce or remember. After months of brainstorming, they combined the Latin word sonus, meaning sound, with the American slang Sonny Boy to create Sony. In 1958, the company officially became Sony Corporation, and the decision elevated their reputation almost overnight, transforming them from a small Japanese manufacturer into a global symbol of innovation. As the economic boom of the 1960s took hold, Sony introduced the revolutionary Trinitron television in 1968, producing brighter, sharper images than any competitor and winning numerous awards. But Sony's greatest triumph came in 1979 with the Walkman, a compact portable cassette player that revolutionized how people experienced music. The Walkman was Ibuka's personal vision, born from his frustration with bulky tape recorders. He challenged his engineers to create something small, simple, and high quality. The result sold over 400 million units worldwide and became a defining cultural phenomenon of the 1980s. Over the following decades, Sony continued innovating with the compact disc in partnership with Philips, the PlayStation gaming console, and the Blu-ray format, growing into a global conglomerate employing hundreds of thousands worldwide. Masaru Ibuka retired in 1976 but remained involved as an advisor until his death in December 1997 at age 89. Akio Morita served as chairman until 1994 when a stroke forced him to step down, and he passed away in October 1999 at age 78. Today, Sony Corporation is valued at over $100 billion and continues to be one of the most recognizable brands in the world. From the ashes of a devastated Tokyo, in a cramped basement with nothing more than an impossible dream and an unshakable belief in innovation, Masaru Ibuka and Akio Morita built an empire that brought music, entertainment, and technology to billions of people across the globe. This is the remarkable story of how a poor refugee engineer and a sake brewer's rebellious son created Sony, proving once again that even in humanity's darkest moments, the indomitable human spirit can rise from the ashes and create something truly extraordinary. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to subscribe and like the video, and I'll see you in the next one.